Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the book of Joshua. We're in Joshua chapter 9. Today we start reading at verse 16, and we're going to finish chapter 9 in today's session. Now we saw in yesterday's session that the Gibeonites had deceived Israel. They realized they would probably be the next target, so they sent a delegation to the Israelite camp to Joshua, and they pretended that they were from a long ways away. They wore old, ragged clothing like they'd been on a long journey. Their provisions looked like they were almost gone. And they convinced Joshua and the Israelites they had come from a long way off. When Joshua said, "Why did you come?" They said, "Well, we heard about you. We heard about what the Lord your God has done for you. And we came to make a treaty with you." Joshua and the Israelite leaders were convinced by the deception. They thought they'd come from a long ways away. So they made a treaty, a non-aggression treaty essentially with them. Later, however, they discovered they had been deceived. That's what we see in verse 16. 3 days after they made the treaty with the Gibeonites, the Israelites heard that they were actually neighbors living near them. So the Israelites set out, and on the third day they came to their cities. But the Israelites did not attack them, because the leaders of the assembly had sworn an oath to them by the Lord, the God of Israel. Now the whole assembly grumbled against the leaders, but all the leaders answered, "We have given them our oath by the Lord, the God of Israel. We cannot touch them now." In other words, they had entered into a solemn treaty in the name of their God. They could not violate it. And they didn't, which is the honorable thing to do. But they are upset because they were deceived into making the treaty. So Joshua summons the Gibeonites and says, "Why did you deceive us, saying we live a long way away? Actually, you live near to us. You are now under a curse. You will never be released from service as woodcutters and water carriers for the house of our God." So Joshua says to them, "We will not attack you. We're under oath, but we will make you our servants. You're under a curse because of your lie. You deceived us. We will make you servants of the house of God." Notice how Gibeon responds. They say, "Your servants were clearly told, we understood how the Lord your God had commanded his servant Moses to give you the whole land, to wipe out the inhabitants before you. We feared for our lives. That's why we did this. We're now in your hands. Do with us whatever seems good and right to you." Isn't it interesting? The Gibeonites admitted they had come to understand that the God of Israel was truly God. "We've heard what the Lord had told you. We heard that he had told you the whole land was yours. We knew that we could not stand against you. We were afraid, and so we deceived you to save our lives." It's interesting that they had practiced deception, but you can understand they actually had a reverence for the God of Israel. They had come to realize the God of Israel was God. And so Joshua says, "We will save you." And Joshua did save them. They did not kill any of them. But that day he made the Gibeonites woodcutters and water carriers for the assembly, to provide for the needs of the altar of the Lord at the place the Lord would choose. And that's what they still are to this very day. So Gibeon, the people of Gibeon, they became servants to Israel. And notice, they had recognized, interestingly enough, they had recognized that the God of Israel was truly God. And so Joshua made them servants of God. He said, "You're going to serve Israel. You're going to provide for what is needed at the altar. The wood for the sacrifices, the water we need for the basin of washing. You are going to provide for the physical needs of the tabernacle, our place of worship." Isn't it interesting that because they had recognized the God of Israel, that's why they had deceived Israel to save themselves, but they had recognized the God of Israel, and now they are made servants of the house of the God of Israel. Interesting. They become servants of the tabernacle, and they serve Israel by caring for their needs, providing the provisions needed for the care and maintenance of the place of worship. So Gibeon is subdued. They are not destroyed, but they do become servants to Israel. And with this understanding, the first part of the conquest is over. At this point, Israel is now in firm control of all the central part of the land. With Gibeon now becoming servants of Israel, the people of Israel are now in firm control of all the center of Canaan. Now, they still have the south to take, That's down in Jerusalem and Hebron. And they still have the north to take, what will later be known in the New Testament as Galilee. So they still have the southern part of the land to take and the northern part. There's still a lot more to do. But right now, they are in firm control of the central part of the Promised Land. The first stage of the conquest of Canaan is now complete. Now, tomorrow we'll start looking at chapter 10, and that will begin the southern campaign as they begin to move into the southern part of the land. We'll look at that in tomorrow's session. So join us next time for our 5-minute Bible study in the book of Joshua.